The front door opens and the air in the hallway immediately feels heavy. You don't see it yet, but you smell it. The faint, earthy scent of upturned soil from a potted plant, or the sharp chemical tang of a ripped open trash bag. You walk into the kitchen and there it is, the chaos, the mess. And in the center of that mess stands the creature you love most in the world. But in this moment, you don't feel love. You feel a surge of hot, prickling frustration. You point your finger, your posture stiffens, and you let out that sharp, accusatory shout. What did you do? Bad dog. We've all been there, and we've all seen what happens next. The dog's body seems to collapse in on itself. The tail vanishes between the hind legs. The eyes widen until a crescent of white appears, the whale eye. They might even roll onto their back, exposing their belly in a gesture we've been told is an apology. We look at that face and we think, he knows, he's guilty, he's sorry for what he did. But what if I told you that in this exact moment, you and your dog are living in two completely different realities? What if I told you that the guilty look is actually a profound biological misunderstanding? A silent fracture in the bridge between two species that has existed for 50,000 years. Today, we are going deeper than we ever have before. We are going beyond the surface of pet ownership and into the dark, complex architecture of the canine brain. We are going to explore why scolding might be the most misunderstood interaction in human-animal history. This is the psychology of the scold, the neurobiology of fear, and the truth about what your dog is actually feeling when you raise your voice. To solve this mystery, we first have to dismantle a human obsession, anthropomorphism. We have an irresistible urge to clothe our dogs in human morality. We want them to have a conscience. We want them to feel guilt, because guilt implies a shared understanding of right and wrong. If a dog feels guilty, it means they respect our rules. But science tells a colder, more fascinating story. In 2009, Dr. Alexandra Horowitz, a titan in the field of canine cognition, decided to put the guilty look under the microscope. She created a controlled environment to see if dogs actually feel remorse for their actions. Owners told their dogs not to eat a treat and left the room. Some dogs ate it, some didn't. When the owners returned, they were given biased information. Even if the dog had been a saint and ignored the treat, if the owner was told the dog had eaten it, they scolded them. And the result? The innocent dogs showed more signs of guilt than the guilty ones. Think about the implications of that for a moment. If the look was about remorse, the innocent dog should have been confused or indifferent. Instead, they looked the most guilty. Why? Because the look isn't a reflection of what the dog did in the past. It is a direct, real-time response to the owner's current body language. The guilty look is a submissive display. It is a biological white flag. It is your dog saying, I can see you are a threat right now, and I am doing everything in my power to make you stop. When you raise your voice, you aren't just communicating a rule. You are triggering a neurological cascade. To understand this, we have to look at the amygdala, the ancient almond-shaped cluster in the brain that handles fear. Humans and dogs share this hardware. It is the smoke detector of the brain. When you yell, your dog's amygdala sends an instant distress signal to the rest of the body. Within milliseconds, the adrenal glands pump out a surge of adrenaline and cortisol. This isn't a learning state. This is a survival state. In this moment, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that could potentially learn or reason, effectively shuts down. Blood flows away from the brain and into the muscles. The heart rate skyrockets. The respiratory system quickens. Your dog is no longer your best friend in this state. They are a mammal under attack. They are experiencing the amygdala hijack. When you ask them, why did you do this? They don't hear a question, they hear a roar. They don't see a teacher, they see a predator that has become unpredictable. This is the moment where the bond of trust, which takes months to build, can be damaged in seconds. One of the most profound differences between your brain and your dog's brain is a concept called episodic memory, or mental time travel. As a human, you can sit in your office and feel guilty about something you said to a friend 3 days ago. You can travel back in time mentally and connect a past action to a current feeling. Dogs, for the most part, live in the now. While they have powerful memories, their ability to link a past event to a current punishment is incredibly limited. This is the associative gap. Behavioral studies have shown that for a dog to associate a punishment with an action, the two must happen almost simultaneously. We are talking about a window of 1.5 to 2 seconds. If you walk into the house and scold your dog for a mess they made 20 minutes ago, the link is broken. In the dog's mind, the sequence of events is this: I am happy to see my human. My human is yelling. My human is scary. They don't think, my human is yelling because I ripped the pillow. They think, my human is yelling at me for being here. This is the foundation of learned helplessness. If a dog is repeatedly scolded for things they cannot link to their own actions, they begin to view their environment as a place of random, unavoidable pain. They stop trying to learn. They stop exploring. They retreat into a state of chronic, quiet anxiety. Let's talk about the long-term chemistry of the scold. We know that praise releases oxytocin, the bonding molecule, but scolding releases cortisol. In small doses, cortisol helps an animal survive a predator. But in the domestic setting, where the predator is the person they live with, cortisol becomes a neurotoxin. A landmark study in Portugal recently analyzed dogs from 2 different training backgrounds: aversive, scolding, shouting, physical corrections, and reward-based, treats, praise. They didn't just look at behavior, they looked at the cellular level. They found that dogs from aversive backgrounds had significantly higher levels of cortisol in their systems, even when they weren't being trained. Their baseline stress was higher. But even more disturbing was the cognitive bias test. The researchers taught the dogs that a bowl on one side of a room always had food, and a bowl on the other side was always empty. Then they placed a bowl in the middle, an ambiguous location. The reward-based dogs ran to the bowl with optimism, hoping it was full. The aversive dogs, the ones who had been scolded and corrected, approached slowly or didn't go at all. They were pessimistic. Scolding doesn't just fix a behavior, it changes the dog's entire worldview. It turns an optimist into a cynic. It makes them expect the worst from life. Is a clean carpet worth that price? We often forget that we are living with a creature that sees with its nose. A dog's sense of smell is 10,000 to 100,000 times more acute than ours. When you get angry, you don't just look and sound scary. You smell terrifying. Anger triggers a physical response in humans. We produce sweat from our apocrine glands. Our skin temperature rises. Our breath changes as our heart rate accelerates. We are emitting a scent of aggression that is invisible to us but overwhelming to them. Imagine being trapped in a room with a person who is screaming at you, while the air itself turns into a suffocating fog of fear-inducing chemicals. This is why dogs often remain submissive or weird for an hour after you stopped yelling. You might have gotten over it, but the chemical evidence of your rage is still lingering in their nostrils. Their environment is literally saturated with the memory of your anger. In 2016, researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest put dogs into an fMRI machine to see how they process human speech. They found something extraordinary. Dogs process the meaning of words, syntax, in the left hemisphere of the brain, and the intonation, the emotion of the voice, in the right hemisphere. But here's the key. For a dog to truly understand a positive message, both the words and the tone have to match. However, for a negative message, the tone always wins. When you scold a dog, the words "bad dog" or "why did you do this" mean nothing to them linguistically. But the right hemisphere of their brain, the emotional side, is being hammered by the frequency and volume of your voice. Aggressive tones in nature are usually low frequency and harsh. Think of a growl. When you use that low, harsh tone, you are bypassing the dog's social brain and speaking directly to their primitive brain. You are flipping a switch that says, this is a life or death situation. To understand the weight of a scold, we have to look back 50,000 years. Dogs are the only species that chose to leave the safety of their own kind to live with us. They surrendered their apex predator status to become our companions. In doing so, they developed a specialized set of social skills. They are the only animals that can follow a human pointing gesture. They are the only animals that look to a human's face for help when they are confused. This is what scientists call the secure base effect. To a dog, you are the sun at the center of their solar system. Their entire sense of self and safety is tethered to your emotional state. When you scold them, you are committing what can only be described as an evolutionary betrayal. You are taking the very person who is supposed to be their secure base and turning them into a source of fear. This creates a state of disorganized attachment. The dog's instinct tells them to run to you for safety when they are scared, but you are the one scaring them. This creates a psychological short circuit that can lead to chronic anxiety, compulsive behaviors, and even aggression. So if we aren't supposed to scold, Does that mean we just let them destroy the house? Absolutely not. But we have to move from retribution to redirection. The canine brain is not built to learn from no. It is built to learn from yes. When you find a mess, the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent. By staying calm, you prevent the cortisol spike. You keep the dog in a learning state. If you catch them in the act, a sharp, short noise to interrupt the behavior is enough. But once the behavior has stopped, the lesson is over. You then provide a yes, a toy they can chew, a place they can go. But what if you've already messed up? What if you lost your cool and yelled? This is where repair comes in. Humans are the only animals that hold on to grudges. Your dog is ready to forgive the moment the threat is gone. But you have to signal that the storm has passed. You have to reset the room. This means lowering your voice, softening your body language, and re-engaging in the oxytocin loop. You need to prove to their nervous system that the protector is back. This isn't rewarding the bad behavior, because remember, the dog has already forgotten the mess. You are simply restoring the secure base so that learning can happen in the future. As we close this investigation into the canine mind, I want you to think about the last time you saw that guilty look. Look at the tuck of the tail. Look at the way they try to make themselves as small as possible. This isn't the behavior of a criminal. This is the behavior of a creature that loves you so much that your disapproval feels like the end of the world. They have spent 50,000 years learning how to read your heartbeat, your scent, and your every move. They are the only creatures on Earth that will love you more than they love themselves. When you raise your voice, you aren't just teaching a lesson. You are echoing through their DNA. You are shaking the foundation of a bond that was forged in the fires of the Ice Age. Next time you see a shredded pillow or a messy floor, take a breath. Remember the amygdala hijack. Remember the olfactory shatter. Remember that your dog is living in a permanent now, and in that now, you are their only source of safety. Don't be the storm, be the shelter. Because in the silent language of the pack, trust is the only thing that truly matters. If this journey into the mind of your dog has changed how you see your best friend, please subscribe. We are here to tell the stories that science is only just beginning to uncover. Drop a comment below. Tell me about a time your dog gave you that guilty look and how you'll handle it differently next time. And if you want to understand the invisible frequency, how dogs can actually sense your emotions before you even feel them, click the video on your screen. The connection between us is deeper than you ever imagined. Be the person your dog thinks you are. We'll see you in the next one.